The galaxy demanded Earth submit. Humanity answered with the Black Armada. Part 1. Ambassador Ralph's scales flickered with annoyance as he transmitted the ultimatum through the communication array. 3 years of diplomatic relations had led to this moment, and he expected the humans to accept their fate like every other species before them. The Dominion Coalition controlled 47 star systems. 200 species had bent the knee without resistance. Humanity would be no different. Your military assets will be surrendered within 30 days, Ralph announced to the assembled human delegation. Earth will accept protectorate status under coalition authority. Resistance will be met with overwhelming force. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. This is not negotiable. Secretary General Rebecca Ford sat across from him, her expression unreadable. She was older than most human leaders he'd encountered, with silver hair and sharp eyes that seemed to calculate every word. The other humans in the room remained silent, waiting for her response. No, Rebecca said simply. Ralph's translator implant stuttered. Surely it had malfunctioned. I do not understand. Perhaps the translation was unclear. The translation was perfect, Rebecca replied. Earth rejects your ultimatum. We choose independence. The alien ambassador felt something unfamiliar. Shock. In 3 centuries of coalition expansion, no species had ever refused protection. You misunderstand the situation. We have 5,000 warships. Your entire fleet numbers less than 200 vessels. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Then I suppose we'll see you on the battlefield. Rebecca stood, straightening her jacket. This meeting is over. Ralph watched the humans file out of the conference room, his mind struggling to process what had just occurred. He immediately transmitted an emergency report to the Coalition High Command, recommending a small punitive force to remind Earth of its place in the galactic order. Admiral Quinn received the report 3 days later aboard his flagship in Coalition space. The Torgathi warrior had commanded fleets for 4 decades, never losing a single engagement. He reviewed Earth's military specifications with barely concealed amusement. Fusion drives that barely achieved .2 light speed. Kinetic weapons that seemed primitive compared to coalition energy arrays. Basic shield. Technology that wouldn't stop a focused plasma burst. 300 ships should suffice, Quinn told his tactical officer. We'll give them a demonstration of power. They'll surrender before we fire a shot. His second-in-command, a Harani named Ralph's cousin Fen, nodded agreement. No species has withstood even a minor coalition fleet. The humans will fold like the others. 25 days later, Quinn's Armada crossed into Earth's solar system. His sensors swept the inner planets, detecting minimal military activity, a few orbital stations, some defensive satellites, nothing that posed a threat. He prepared his victory speech, imagining the grateful humans accepting coalition protection after witnessing his fleet's majesty. Sir, his sensor operator called out, detecting massive energy signatures. Quinn frowned. Where? Beyond Neptune's orbit, 500 unknown contacts. The operator's voice carried uncertainty. They're powering up weapon systems. The view screen shifted, revealing a sight that made Quinn's blood freeze. 500 vessels emerged from the darkness, each one painted black as the void between stars. They moved with precision, forming attack formations that seemed almost predatory. A communication channel opened. A human face appeared on screen, older, military bearing, calm despite facing impossible odds. I am Admiral James Wright of Earth's Defense Forces, the human said. You are ordered to withdraw from our solar system immediately. Quinn laughed, though it sounded forced even to his own ears. Your ships look like crude metal boxes. Withdraw before we destroy you. 3 years ago, when your coalition made first contact, we began preparing for this day, Wright continued, his tone never changing. While your observers saw primitive technology, we were studying every probe you sent, every scan you conducted, every weakness in your formations. You're bluffing, Quinn declared. No species can match coalition military power. Then let me educate you about humanity, Wright said. We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day, storms that could level cities, predators that hunted us, diseases that wiped out millions. We didn't just survive, we conquered our entire planet. Every species has a homeworld story, Quinn replied. It means nothing. We've been fighting wars since before we had written language, Wright pressed on. We've refined the art of killing each other for 10,000 years, and then we learned to aim those skills outward. You made a mistake. Ambassador Ralph asked us to submit, but submission isn't in our nature. Quinn had heard enough. All ships open fire, teach these primitives respect. The Coalition fleet's energy weapons lanced through space, brilliant beams of concentrated plasma crossing millions of kilometers in seconds. They struck the human shields, and the humans absorbed every shot, their defensive screens holding firm. Return fire, Wright ordered. The Black Armada responded with weapons Quinn had never encountered, railguns firing projectiles at relativistic speeds, antimatter-tipped rounds that punched through energy shields like they weren't there. His sensors screamed warnings as Coalition ships began exploding, their armor unable to withstand kinetic impacts traveling at significant fractions of light speed. Evasive maneuvers, Quinn shouted, but his fleet's rigid formation doctrine worked against them. Ships collided trying to break formation. The humans exploited every gap, their vessels moving in chaotic patterns that made targeting impossible. Within 30 minutes, 50 Coalition ships were destroyed. Within an hour, the number reached 180. Quinn stared at his tactical display in horror, watching centuries of military dominance crumble. All ships retreat, he finally ordered. Jump to FTL now. The surviving vessels fled, leaving their dead behind. Quinn's flagship was among the last to escape. He looked back at the human fleet, still holding position, not pursuing. They'd made their point. Admiral Wright watched the Coalition forces disappear. Casualty report, he requested. 45 ships lost, mostly forward screening vessels, his tactical officer replied. The main fleet is intact. They'll be back, Wright said quietly. Next time with everything they have. He activated the communication system. All ships return to defensive positions, prepare for the real war. This was just the beginning. The galaxy demanded Earth submit. Humanity answered with the Black Armada. Part 2. High Chancellor Merith slammed his appendage against the council table. The report from Admiral Quinn lay before him like an accusation. 180 ships destroyed. The Coalition's first defeat in 4 centuries, and the species responsible was supposed to be primitive. How? Merith demanded, his voice echoing through the chamber. How did these humans achieve this? The council members, representatives from all 47 Coalition worlds, shifted uncomfortably. None wanted to speak first. Finally, Councillor Tresh of the Pollux delegation broke the silence. They studied us, learned our tactics, built weapons specifically designed to counter our advantages. They had 3 years, another councillor added. We assumed they were accepting their position. Instead, they were preparing for war. Merith's rage burned cold and calculating. Mobilize 5,000 warships, every available vessel. We will turn their planet into dust. No species will dare defy the Coalition after we make an example of Earth. 3 months of preparation followed. The largest armada in recorded history assembled. Ships from every Coalition world converged on the staging point. Merith himself would lead the fleet, his personal dreadnought at the center of an overwhelming force. The galaxy would watch humanity burn. Rebecca Ford stood in Earth's command center, monitoring the approaching fleet. The numbers were staggering. Humanity's entire military force couldn't match a fifth of what was coming. But she'd known this day would arrive. The question wasn't whether Earth could win. It was whether Earth could survive. Admiral Wright, she said, status report. Black Armada at full readiness, Wright replied from the orbital command station. 800 ships, all defensive platforms operational, civilian evacuation 90% complete. We're outnumbered 6-1, Defense Minister Liu noted. Can we hold? We held against 300, Wright said. We'll hold against 5,000 or die trying. The coalition fleet entered the solar system like a plague. Thousands of warships blotting out the stars, they moved in perfect formation. A demonstration of power meant to terrify. Mareth broadcast his ultimatum across all human frequencies. People of Earth, you have 12 hours to surrender unconditionally, his translated voice boomed. Your military will be dismantled, your leaders executed, your population confined to your homeworld under permanent guard. Refuse, and we will annihilate every human settlement from Earth to your furthest colony. Rebecca's response was broadcast simultaneously to the coalition fleet and every human receiver. Chancellor Mareth, you come to our home with threats and demands. You think we'll beg for mercy because you brought more ships. Let me tell you about humanity. She activated a holographic display, showing images from human history. We've fought wars that killed millions. We've endured plagues that wiped out half our population. We've survived ice ages and asteroid impacts and our own stupidity, and we're still here. She paused. You chose the wrong species to intimidate. We come from a death world, Rebecca continued. A planet that spawned predators capable of hunting us, weather systems that could destroy cities in minutes. A world where everything from the plants to the microbes tried to kill us. We didn't just survive, we thrived. We turned Earth from our enemy into our home through pure stubborn refusal to quit. So here's our answer, she declared. Every human on Earth, every human in our colonies, every man, woman, and child would rather die free than live as your subjects. You want Earth, come and take it. But know this, we will fight for every meter of space, every orbital platform, every moonbase. And when you finally stand on our ashes, you'll have paid a price that haunts your species for generations. Mareth cut the transmission, furious at the defiance. All ships begin attack, show them the cost of pride. The coalition fleet surged forward, energy weapons lighting up the darkness. The first wave hit Earth's outer defensive grid, minefields that had been laid across the solar system's perimeter. Explosions rippled through the coalition formation, destroying 200 ships before they could react. They weaponized their entire star system, Mareth's tactical officer reported. Mines, automated defense platforms, even asteroids rigged with explosives. Push through, Mareth ordered. Numbers will prevail. The Black Armada struck from multiple vectors. Human ships diving in from Jupiter's orbit, using the gas giant's gravity to accelerate to terrifying speeds. They hit coalition flanks with railgun barrages, crippling ships before disappearing back into the planet's radiation belts. Another group emerged from the asteroid belt, smaller vessels, faster, more maneuverable. They targeted coalition command ships, taking out communication nodes, disrupting the careful formations, creating chaos in ranks that depended on rigid hierarchy. Wright coordinated the defense from orbit, watching his tactical display. Like a chess master, Delta Squadron hit their left flank. Gamma, take out those carriers, all orbital platforms, focus fire on their dreadnoughts. The battle raged for 72 hours. The coalition pressed forward through sheer weight of numbers. They destroyed 200 human ships, took out half the orbital platforms, breached the outer defenses. But every meter cost them dearly. Earth's defenders fought with desperate ferocity, ramming damaged ships into coalition vessels, detonating antimatter warheads at point-blank range, refusing to retreat. Mareth watched his casualties mount, 800 ships destroyed, 1,000 more damaged, his perfect formation shattered into scattered battle groups. The humans just wouldn't break. Even when outgunned, they found ways to kill his ships. Prepare for planetary bombardment, he finally ordered. If they won't surrender, we'll burn their world. Wright received the intel 3 minutes later. They're positioning for bombardment, his sensor officer reported, targeting Earth's major cities. Activate Protocol Scorched Sky, Wright commanded. Across the solar system, hidden devices powered up, antimatter charges positioned near the Sun, around Jupiter, throughout the asteroid belt. enough explosive force to destabilize the entire system. Write broadcast on all channels. Chancellor Mareth, if you bombard Earth, we detonate charges that will turn this solar system into an expanding debris field. Your fleet won't escape. We all die together. Is your pride worth 5,000 ships? Mareth stared at the tactical display. Humans had booby-trapped their own solar system, prepared to commit species suicide rather than submit. These weren't rational actors. They were fanatics willing to take everyone down with them. Pull back to outer system, he ordered quietly. Maintain blockade but hold fire. Earth had survived but remained trapped, isolated but unbroken. Neither side could win, but neither would surrender. The galaxy demanded Earth submit. Humanity answered with the Black Armada. Part 3. The blockade entered its 6th month. Coalition ships ringed the solar system like prison guards. Nothing entered. Nothing left. Earth survived on recycled resources, underground farms, and the stubborn determination that had defined humanity since its ancestors first stood upright. Ambassador Routh stood in his quarters aboard a coalition supply vessel. Reviewing reports from his homeworld, the Harani people were merchants, not warriors. They'd been absorbed into the coalition 3 centuries ago through economic pressure, not military conquest. Now their economy bled resources to maintain this senseless siege. A coded message arrived from 2 other species, the Pollux and Den, both expressing similar concerns. The war was destroying coalition unity. Species that had coexisted under Mareth's rule now questioned whether humanity's defiance might be justified. Ralph made a decision that would change galactic history. He contacted Earth. Rebecca Ford received the transmission with surprise. Ambassador Ralph, I didn't expect to hear from you. Secretary Ford, I come with a proposition. Ralph's scales flickered nervously. The Harani, Pollux, and Den peoples wish to negotiate separate peace with humanity. You want to betray the coalition, Rebecca stated flatly. We want freedom, Ralph corrected. Your species showed us something we'd forgotten. That submission isn't the only option. The coalition isn't a union of equals. It's an empire built on coercion. We've watched you fight for 6 months, and we've realized we want what you have. Rebecca leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing? Help us break free, Ralph said. We have ships within the blockade fleet. If we turn against Mareth, we can create an opening. Your Black Armada can exploit the chaos. In return, we ask for alliance with Earth, protection while we establish our independence. You're asking us to start a civil war, Rebecca replied. We're asking you to finish what you started, Ralph countered. You fought for your freedom, now help us fight for ours. Admiral Wright joined the conversation. If we accept, we're committing to a much larger conflict. The coalition will fracture, species will choose sides. It could destabilize half the galaxy. It's already destabilized, Ralph argued. The coalition exists because everyone believes resistance is futile. You proved that wrong. Now we want to follow your example. Rebecca looked at Wright, who nodded slowly. Humanity didn't start this war, she said to Ralph. But we'll help you finish it. Send us your fleet positions. We'll coordinate the attack. 3 days later, chaos erupted in the blockade fleet. Harani vessels suddenly opened fire on coalition command ships, targeting communication arrays and weapon systems. The Pollux joined seconds later, their advanced sensors guiding precision strikes. Den warships created defensive screens, protecting the rebels from immediate retaliation. Mareth's flagship rocked from unexpected impacts. What's happening? He roared. Multiple species in open rebellion, his tactical officer reported. The Harani, Pollux, Den, and 6 other delegations have turned against us. Traitors, Mareth snarled. All loyal ships destroy the rebels. The blockade dissolved into 3-way warfare. Loyalist forces attacked rebels fought back, and through the confusion, the Black Armada launched its counteroffensive. Human ships had been waiting for exactly this opportunity. Wright commanded the assault from his flagship. All units, target Loyalist vessels, protect rebel ships, focus fire on Marith's command group. Earth's warships tore through the disorganized coalition lines. Their crews had spent 6 months planning this exact scenario. Every weakness mapped, every vulnerability identified. They moved like predators among prey, crippling Loyalist ships with surgical precision. The rebel species fought with desperate courage. Knowing failure meant execution. Routh commanded the Hurani contingent, his merchant vessels retrofitted with weapons, not a match for military ships but numerous enough to matter. He watched humans coordinate the entire battle, directing rebel forces with professional efficiency. Human ship Delta 7, you have 3 Loyalist destroyers approaching your position, Routh transmitted. Confirmed, moving to intercept, the human commander replied. Hurani Squadron, can you provide covering fire? Gladly, Routh directed his ships to support the humans, watching as combined fire brought down coalition vessels. Marith saw his fleet disintegrating. A third of his forces had rebelled. Another third was destroyed or damaged. The remainder struggled to maintain cohesion against coordinated human rebel attacks. His perfect empire was collapsing in real time. Chancellor, we're receiving transmission from the Coalition Council, his communications officer announced. The message was brief and devastating. High Chancellor Marith, you are hereby ordered to accept human peace terms immediately. This war has cost us everything. End it now or we will remove you from command. Marith stared at the tactical display, seeing 4 centuries of coalition dominance. Burning in space, he'd underestimated humanity, assumed they were just another species to be conquered. Instead, they'd become the spark that ignited revolution across his empire. Write broadcast across all channels. All forces, cease fire. The Coalition Council has agreed to peace negotiations. The shooting stopped, but the damage was done. The coalition was fractured. Species that had coexisted under enforced unity now faced uncertain futures. Some celebrated their newfound freedom. Others feared the chaos that might follow. Rebecca arrived at the neutral station 2 weeks later, accompanied by Admiral Wright and representatives from the rebel species. Marith sat across from them, looking older, diminished. You've destroyed everything we built, Marith said quietly. You built it on suppression, Rebecca replied. We just showed the galaxy there was another way. What do you want? Marith asked. Reparations, territory, vassalage. We want recognition, Rebecca said. Earth and all rebel species recognized as sovereign independent nations, the coalition restructured as a voluntary alliance. No more forced membership, no more threats of conquest. Marith laughed bitterly. You could demand so much more. Why settle for independence? Because we're not conquerors, Wright interjected. We fought for the right to be left alone. Now we're ensuring others have that same right. The galaxy won't accept this, Marith warned. Other empires exist, worse than the coalition. They'll see weakness and attack. Then we'll face them together, Rebecca stated. As equals, not subjects, the Free Systems Alliance starts today. Voluntary cooperation, mutual defense, shared prosperity, everything the coalition should have been. Marith signed the treaty, his hand steady despite his defeat. History will remember this day. Yes, Rebecca agreed, as the day the galaxy chose freedom. The galaxy demanded Earth submit. Humanity answered with the Black Armada. Part 4. The reconstruction began slowly. Worlds torn by civil war needed time to heal. Human engineers arrived at former coalition planets, bringing supplies, technology, expertise. The Black Armada transformed from instruments of war into vessels of aid. Their cargo holds filled with medical equipment instead of ammunition. Admiral Wright supervised the transformation from Earth's orbital command, watching supply ships depart for distant systems. It felt strange after months of combat, but this was why they'd fought, not for conquest but for the chance to build something better. Admiral, his communications officer called, we're receiving reports from deep space monitoring stations. unknown vessels attacking colonies in the outer sectors. Wright pulled up the tactical data, his expression darkening. How many ships? Estimates suggest at least 200, possibly more, the officer replied. They're hitting settlements in former coalition space, overwhelming local defenses, taking prisoners. Who are they? Wright demanded. Identification matches the Vorthan Empire, a new voice answered. Ralph entered the command center, his scales pale with worry. They're worse than the coalition ever was. They don't subjugate, they enslave, entire populations shipped to their mining worlds. Where's Merith? Wright asked. Earth, he's serving as ambassador to your world, Ralph said. He warned us this would happen. Other empires would see our civil war as weakness. Wright activated the emergency channel. Secretary Ford, we have a situation. 3 hours later, the Free Systems Alliance convened an emergency council session. Representatives from 47 species, former coalition members, now independent nations, all facing a common threat. Rebecca addressed the assembly. The Vorthan Empire has attacked our outer colonies. They command 10,000 warships, twice what the coalition fielded at its height. If we don't act together, they'll conquer us piecemeal. Panic rippled through the chamber. Some delegates argued for immediate surrender. Others wanted to flee to unexplored space. A few suggested returning to coalition rule for protection. Silence, Merith's voice cut through the chaos. The former High Chancellor stood, his posture weary but his voice firm. I built the coalition on fear and force. It failed because subjugation breeds resentment, but voluntary cooperation, that has power. The humans showed us something, Merith continued. When they fought our fleet, they didn't just defend Earth, they defended the principle that all species deserve freedom. Now we must defend that principle together. How? Councillor Tresh demanded. The Vorthans have 10,000 ships, we barely have 3,000 combined. We have humanity, Ralph interjected, and they've taught us that numbers aren't everything. Rebecca looked at Wright, who nodded. Earth commits its full military force to Alliance defense, she announced. 600 ships of the Black Armada, plus our orbital platforms and defense networks. The Hurani offer our supply chains and logistics, Ralph added. We'll keep the fleet fed and armed. One by one, species pledged their contributions. The Pollux provided advanced sensor technology. The Den shared expertise in defensive fortifications. The Torgathi, Merith's own people, committed their remaining warships and tactical knowledge. We're still outnumbered 3-1, Tresh noted, against an enemy that's never lost a war. Neither had the coalition, Wright replied. Until they met us. The Vorthans rely on overwhelming force. They've never faced a coordinated defense by multiple species working together. The Alliance fleet assembled at the border of Vorthan space. 3,000 warships representing dozens of worlds. Human vessels formed the core, their black hulls surrounded by the varied designs of allied species. Wright commanded from his flagship, former coalition officers serving under him, species that had been enemies months ago now training together. The Vorthan Emperor, a being known only as the Dominant, received reports of the gathering fleet with amusement. His species had conquered 40 systems through pure military might. This ragtag alliance would break like all others. Send 2,000 ships, he ordered. Teach these upstarts respect. The Vorthan advance fleet entered Alliance space expecting easy victory. Instead, they found a coordinated defense that shifted tactics constantly. Human commanders integrated alien technologies. Pollux sensors detected Vorthan ships before they could ambush. Hurani supply lines kept Alliance vessels armed. Den fortifications channeled enemies into kill zones. The battle lasted 6 hours. Vorthan ships were powerful, better armed than coalition vessels, but they'd never faced an enemy that fought with genuine cooperation. Alliance species covered each other's weaknesses, shared targeting data, coordinated attacks across multiple vectors. Wright watched the tactical display, seeing decades of human military evolution applied to interstellar warfare. Delta Wing, Hit their left flank. Harani Squadron, provide cover. Torgathi Dreadnoughts, focus fire on their command ship. The Vorthans lost 800 ships before retreating, stunned by the Alliance's effectiveness. They'd never encountered such coordination, species working together as equals rather than master and slave. The Dominant reviewed the battle reports with growing concern. These weren't frightened refugees. This was an organized military force led by a species that understood warfare at a fundamental level. He ordered his remaining fleet to hold position while he considered his options. Wright broadcast a message to Vorthan Space. Emperor, I am Admiral James Wright of the Free Systems Alliance. We don't seek war with your empire, but we will defend our members with everything we have. You've seen what we can do, Wright continued. 47 species fighting as one, sharing technology, coordinating tactics, protecting each other. You can attack us, but you'll face not one species but an alliance united by choice, not fear. We offer you an alternative, Wright concluded. Join the alliance, contribute instead of conquer, benefit from cooperation instead of slavery. The choice is yours, but choose wisely. This galaxy has changed, and empires built on subjugation are relics of the past. The transmission ended, leaving the Dominant to contemplate an impossible situation. His empire was stronger, but the alliance fought with something his forces lacked: unity born from mutual respect. Weeks passed, tension mounting. Then the Vorthan response arrived. The Dominant requests diplomatic negotiations. He wishes to discuss terms of non-aggression. Rebecca smiled at the message. Not surrender, not submission, negotiation. Humanity taught us to fight for freedom, Ralph observed. Now we're teaching the galaxy that cooperation is stronger than conquest. It's a start, Wright agreed, watching more species request alliance membership. The real work begins now. Maintaining peace is harder than winning wars. But for the first time in galactic history, peace seemed possible, built not on fear but on the simple idea that all species deserved dignity, respect, and the freedom to choose their own path. The galaxy demanded Earth submit. Humanity answered with the Black Armada. Part 5. 5 years after the treaty, the Free Systems Alliance transformed the galaxy. What began as 47 species escaping coalition control had grown to 112 member worlds, each joining voluntarily, each contributing according to their strengths. Humanity's influence spread not through conquest but through example. Rebecca Ford walked through Earth's Memorial Park, her grandson holding her hand. The boy pointed at the black monument rising toward the sky, its surface etched with names of those who died defending humanity's freedom. Grandmother, why did we fight? The child asked. Teacher says we could have surrendered. Rebecca knelt beside him, choosing her words carefully. Sometimes surrender means losing more than a battle. It means losing who you are. Your grandfather's generation refused to kneel because they believed something important. What did they believe? The boy pressed. That every species, every person, deserves to choose their own path, Rebecca explained. That freedom isn't given by the powerful, it's taken by the brave, and once you have it, you protect it, not just for yourself but for everyone. She pointed at the night sky. See those stars? Each one represents a world that's free because humans said no when an empire demanded yes. Your grandfather fought so those worlds could make their own choices. Admiral Wright, now retired, joined them, his hair white but his stride still strong, talking about the war again. He asked why we fought, Rebecca said. Wright sat on a nearby bench, looking up at the memorial. We fought because someone had to. The galaxy accepted tyranny as normal. We showed them it didn't have to be that way. Do you regret it? The boy asked. All those people who died. Every day, Wright admitted. But I'd regret surrender more. Those people chose to fight. They knew the cost. They paid it willingly so their children wouldn't have to live under someone else's boot. A message arrived on Rebecca's communicator. She read it and smiled. The Vorthan Empire just submitted their formal application for alliance membership. Wright raised an eyebrow. The dominant is actually joining. Apparently their economy can't compete with the Alliance's free trade networks, Rebecca explained. Conquest is expensive. Cooperation is profitable. They're learning what we tried to teach the coalition. How many does that make? Wright asked. 127 member species, Rebecca replied, and 15 more applications pending review. The boy looked confused, but weren't the Vorthans our enemies? They were, Wright agreed, but enemies can become allies if you give them the chance. That's what the Alliance is. About turning conflict into cooperation. Across the galaxy, the transformation continued. Former coalition worlds rebuilt with human assistance. Earth's engineers shared technology freely, asking only for cultural exchange in return. The Black Armada, now numbering over 1,000 ships, patrolled Alliance space, protecting members from pirates and raiders. Ambassador Routh stood in the Alliance Council chambers, addressing the assembled delegates. 5 years ago, we were subjects of an empire that demanded obedience. Today we are partners in an alliance built on mutual respect. This change began when one species refused to submit. Humanity taught us that strength comes not from domination but from unity, Routh continued. They could have become conquerors after defeating the coalition. Instead, they became liberators. They could have demanded tribute. Instead, they offered aid. Marith, now serving as the Alliance's chief diplomatic officer, nodded agreement. I led the coalition. I believed power meant control. I was wrong. True power means inspiring others to stand beside you, not forcing them to kneel before you. The Vorthan dominant is learning this lesson now, Marith added. His empire crumbled not from military defeat but from economic isolation. Conquest couldn't compete with cooperation. No one wanted to trade with slavers when they could partner with the Alliance. The Council voted unanimously to accept the Vorthan application, conditional on their releasing all enslaved populations and dismantling their forced labor systems. The dominant agreed, understanding that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. Wright received notification of the vote from Earth. He forwarded it to his former crew, scattered across Alliance space, training new defenders, building new ships, teaching the next generation of officers. One message came back from Commander Lisa, now captain of her own vessel. Never thought I'd see the day Vorthans joined peacefully. Guess you were right. Admiral, sometimes the wars you don't fight are the ones you actually win. Another from Lieutenant Chen, stationed at a border outpost. The old enemies are becoming new friends. Dad would have loved to see this. He died fighting the coalition, but maybe his sacrifice made this peace possible. Wright composed a reply to all of them. You fought for humanity's freedom, but you won something bigger. You won the galaxies. Freedom, every species that joins the Alliance. Every world that chooses cooperation over conquest. That's your legacy. Be proud. Rebecca returned to the memorial that evening, alone this time. She placed flowers at the base, honoring those who hadn't lived to see the peace they'd fought for. We did it, she whispered. The galaxy you gave your lives protecting, it's free now, not perfectly, not everywhere, but it's better than it was, and it keeps getting better. The Black Armada passed overhead, their dark hulls silhouetted against Earth's sunset. Once instruments of defiance, now symbols of protection, they patrolled the stars not as conquerors but as guardians, ensuring that no species would face alone what humanity had faced. Wright joined her, standing in comfortable silence. Think we'll be remembered? He finally asked. Probably not the way we'd want, Rebecca replied. History tends to simplify, make heroes out of people who were just trying to survive. Good, Wright said. Let them remember the idea, not the individuals, the idea that freedom is worth fighting for, that cooperation beats conquest, that saying no to tyranny is always the right choice even when it seems impossible. The galaxy demanded Earth submit, Rebecca reflected, and humanity answered with defiance, but more importantly, we answered with hope. We showed everyone that another way was possible. Now it's their turn, Wright agreed. We lit the fire, they have to keep it burning. They stood together, two old warriors watching the peaceful sky, knowing their war had ended but their work continued. The Free Systems Alliance would face challenges, internal conflicts, external threats, moments of doubt. But it would endure, because it was built on a simple truth that humanity had proven in blood and fire, that free people fighting together are stronger than any empire built on subjugation. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had changed it, not through conquest but through courage, not through domination but through determination. They'd answered tyranny's demand with two simple words that echoed across the stars. No and never again.